How's your sound quality, dear? You good?
It's great.
Yes,
Okay.
it's wonderful. Oh, you talk. You're not talking to me.
It's not all about I mean, it's mostly about Ed Winslet here for this next hour, but that hour hasn't started yet.
Dear.
Yes, the audio is good, Sugar Plum. All right, I think we are about to begin here. Let me holler at Noemi here. Hey, dear, we're about to start.
Let's start.
We're starting. You're scampering around, just running around, trying to get back in time. All right, so it begins. Episode 3 of Getting to Know. Today, we are hanging with my good pal, Ed Winslet. Ed Winslet is a real estate entrepreneur, hypnotherapist, and he's going to share with us today a little bit about how to make money leveraging the platform of Airbnb in the UK, some tips, some tricks, and we're going to see what kind of good stuff he has for us here today. How are you, Ed? And thank you for joining us.
I am great, and it's great to be here. I feel like, in some ways, I am this accidental. Like a lot of my property stuff has been accidental in some ways. It was as you mentioned. We have spoken many times about like my coaching and things I've been trying to do with my coaching, and my property was like a little side. It's like a side thing that sort of started to take over.
Okay, and before we get into that, let's kind of start at the beginning since we've both alluded to it. You started primarily focusing on hypnotherapy coaching, correct?
Yes, yes.
What the
I was a
hell is that?
musician. Well, I was a musician, and I wanted to create these master classes for singers initially, because I was a singer and I coached singers, and I used hypnotherapy to stop smoking years ago. And as I wanted to move forward with with my coaching, and also diversify into different kind of training and mentoring. It felt like a nice little invention that I could use to use two different perspectives that I'd had to create something different that no one had done before.
Okay, so you had used hypnotherapy yourself to stop smoking, and you decided to use it to assist you in coaching musicians.
Yeah, that's it. I basically trained. I was already a musician and trainer in that side, and I developed, learnt and trained in a different area to kind of, I guess, niche myself.
Okay, and so how did you make the transition from hypnotherapy coaching to leveraging Airbnb and being a landlord?
Okay, well, basically, and you remember this, I I was really working on this coaching over here, and I started to get a lot of interest from the US,
Mm-hmm.
and I started to kind of push my mind out into that market, and I went visiting and to sort of I guess it sounds like something a politician would say. It was like a little fact finding missions to find out whether I should be there, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to I wanted to kind of go and live the American dream, and what I had here was I had a property, and I wanted to sell the property to help fund that dream, and and so basically what I decided to do was I decided to develop and add value to the property, and I was going to sell the property and make that big leap. But that was my initial plan. Airbnb was never really in my plan. It sort of basically it was it sort of it just came into my life.
And I think that's a similar case with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially when those of us who learn to have a structured goal, but to be flexible in our means and how to get there, and learn to see when one opportunity is is cresting higher, has showing more opportunity than the other, and to knowing when to read the room, so to speak, knowing when to, as I was just talking to Noemi here the other day, we were talking about one of the most important factors to consider as an entrepreneur is asset allocation, and knowing where to allocate the assets of your time, energy, creativity. So in this case, you kind of saw that maybe you'd best allocate your assets, your time, energy, and creativity into focusing more on the real estate side of your business as opposed to the hypnotherapy coaching, right?
Well, it was basically the real estate side was going to fund my dream.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you know, as I am over here, it's not so easy that I just get on the plane, trade my passport for a nice blue one like you guys have, which I'd love to do if anyone's up for it. But it's not so easy. It's going to take investment. It's going to take lawyers. It's going to take start seed money and all kinds of things. So yeah, I focus on the real estate because I really want that business to work and wanted to have an opportunity to do it. So the first sort of thing that when I went as a visitor over to LA, I had a couple of friends who were Airbnb managers, and they were doing like some really high-end stuff. It was
Mm-hmm.
called Best Nest, and there's a couple of really great guys called Ash and Nikki. They're just
Now,
beautiful people.
before we dive too far into that, we should be
Yeah.
clear here. Where are you in the UK? What market are you currently looking at? What are we talking about?
Where's my location?
Yeah.
Okay, I am based near, in the area of, I'm near sort of Heathrow. It's actually a little town called Egham, and it's near Heathrow. It's near Windsor.
Okay.
It's near the it's the airport kind of area.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
yeah.
Near the airport, huh?
And so you were saying that you had a couple friends who were doing high-end Airbnb managements?
Yeah, in LA, and I didn't really get involved with any of that, but that was the first time I ever came across Airbnb, and they were making a great business out of it.
And so from there, you had your property. And what would you say are the pros and cons of renting out the property, being a traditional landlord versus because you're just strictly Airbnb the property, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, basically, the the reason that I Airbnb'd the property was because I brought the property to market,
Okay.
and it you basically Brexit and some of the other tax changes flattened and made the market very boring.
Interesting.
And
So Brexit directly affected your real estate market.
yeah, it kicked my ass directly. Directly, and it was, there's, people will be on one side or the other,
Hmm.
but whatever the argument is for or against, the thing halted or slowed down the market enormously, and it
Yikes.
slowed down my, I I I think I had like this little, I had this, these little plans, and it felt like everything was neatly coming together, and then suddenly,
It
this
wasn't.
thing happened, and it just put the brakes on the whole thing.
And I mean that's the unfortunately that's the world, like Jim Rohn says there's seasons in all aspects of life, so it's good to be able to roll with the punches and adapt your strategy, and I suppose that's what we're getting into then is you were your move from there was to start looking at alternative methods to monetize the property, I imagine.
So that's it. I mean, in the year that I was developing the property, I decided, whilst I'm doing this, I'm going to learn as much as possible about the UK property market as I
Mhm.
can, or the different areas. And I took a second job in the industry. I, I, went to tons of different interviews. I learned, I taught myself how to find properties that were off the market and many different ways that you can do that. And I was looking at the market all the time, and I just found, I mean, I found that I came across some extremely experienced people that had been in this industry for a long time, higher, and I felt like a lot of I didn't, I was saying earlier, I feel like a novice doing this, but I felt like I came across so many novices that sort of seemed to know less than I did, and I pushed myself in a very short time, which was quite worrying. But then, and I think if you've got to have a really open attitude to things, and that's and and not just see things in the traditional way, or where everyone else sees it. You have to be very, very open.
Agreed, agreed. So what would you say are some of the pros and cons? Let's start with pros. Like what are some of the advantages of using Airbnb to monetize your property as opposed to the traditional landlord tenant structure?
Okay, well, the reason that I developed property, developed the property and didn't rent it out was because as far as I had looked into the market and looked on different forums, there was like one called Property Tribes. The things that the government tax changes that had happened had seemed to affect landlords and affect the rental market. So it just didn't seem like you could really. I know there will be some people who do, but it seemed like a lot harder to build a rental empire in the traditional sense.
Right.
Um, so it, it's it felt like that with Airbnb. Okay, so here's the other thing. I think I think a lot of landlords in this country, and this is how they sort of work, is they buy a and and basically the rent services the debt percentage, or so services the interest,
Right.
and they hold the thing for as long as possible,
Hmm.
and then one day, and the way that it grows over time, that's where they cash in, but they don't necessarily cash in on that short-term rental. It's not like what I've discussed, you've discussed with some of your ideas and your plans, where you can get like the rent to fund two properties potentially. It doesn't seem to be like that here. The I think the what the landlords are doing it for the value change over this time. And I guess UK property's been very good for decades. Um, we could be entering into a more tricky era now,
Hmm.
but people would disagree with that. So I find that quite boring personally, because it's a sort of I guess you are planting seeds for the future, but you're not sort of it's sort of, and I think the way it's slowed down, it's not very exciting. The other thing is you kind of I think people love buying property because it's something you can see and feel and
Hmm.
grab hold of. Well, as soon as you get a tenant in there, you're probably not going to have anything to do with it, hopefully, for a year. And I say hopefully, but at the same time, you lose a sense of feeling like you own the physical thing. Um, I'm kind of going on. The thing is, the thing that's really great about Airbnb is feel like you own it a lot more. And what I mean is, because you have guests that may be staying for one day, maybe they're staying for 30 days. Sometimes I've had people that stayed for 2 months. Um, but
Hmm.
you've got a greater sense of like feeling like you own something and feeling like you're part of something.
So you feel like
So
you have more control over the property as opposed to if you rented it out to a tenant for a year or 6 months or something.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
The income is great. The income is great. You meet interesting people and
You meet interesting people. You're cutting out there for a
make
second.
friends and with the property.
Okay. So you meet a lot of travelers.
Yeah, travelers, work people, people from doing all kinds of different things. So, I mean, I rent at the moment. I'm renting like a bunch of rooms out in the property, so I've always got access to the house. Um,
So wait, do
you
you rent
know,
out multiple rooms at a time to different travelers?
yes, I do.
Ah, okay. So it's not just one person renting the property at a time, but you have like three different travelers in different instances all staying together in one house.
Yeah, well, I've got four rooms that I rent out, and there can be four different types of guests, and some of those rooms hold more people. And actually, I've been to the house, and they sort of created their own sort of community. They've been socializing. They've gone to the pub together. They've
Interesting.
made friends. They've collaborated on things. Yeah,
That's
I
very
mean,
interesting. So how many rooms do you have available for rent in that house?
four. I've
Four.
got
Okay.
four.
You got four rooms for rent in there. Do you mind telling us how much you charge for each room?
It's very variable depending on the room, depending on the time of year, and depending on where you play around
Wow.
with. But I've
Okay.
rented like some rooms out for, let's say, £35,
A
and
night?
sometimes yeah, a night,
Okay.
and sometimes you have rooms because you have multiple guests, and there's extra cost for the guests. So it's gone for like £60.
Hmm.
Um, so and the interesting thing is that you can actually you can actually be upgrading people from the inferior rooms to the good rooms sometimes.
So there's
Yeah,
opportunity to kind of upsell people with Airbnb.
yeah. I
Hmm.
mean,
Oh, very
you could.
cool.
I mean, here's a little trick, right? Is you have, so you have like, so I have four rooms, and I probably need to like 10x this even more. But I advertise six rooms.
Hmm.
So I have four of the cheap rooms, so four listings of the cheap rooms,
Okay.
and then I upgrade them.
What do you mean upgrade them?
So let's say if I've got like two single bedroom
Okay.
and there's bookings on the same day for that single bedroom, and I do everything request to book so I don't get it unstuck. But let's say if I have like two guests, both have booked the same room, I then push one of those guests into the more expensive room.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. So, what is something that, because obviously there's like a profile, an app, an interface that you use to, you have to accept somebody to come to your place, right? You have to approve them. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean you can have instant book on, but I choose the request to book model just
That
so.
sounds risky. The instant.
I mean the instant book thing is people have already provided their government IDs and
Mm,
stuff, and
gotcha.
because it's kind of a social platform, I feel that Airbnb's pretty safe anyway. I mean I've lived in the house whilst doing it,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
I've, and actually I didn't have, I've only just started putting locks on doors, but I didn't even have locks on doors because it was that
Yeah.
because it's that kind of community, and the only reason I put locks on doors now is to make people feel safe. It's
Yeah,
not actually
for
making them
sure.
safer because the community is, I feel the community is really safe, just
So,
because.
what kind of tips would you give? So, say we have someone listening here live today or in the YouTube in the future. What kind of tips would you give someone who's considering getting into Airbnb and they want their, maybe they're in a high volume area and they want their profile or their listing to stand out? Like, what helps your listing stand out and be chosen by travelers over others?
I think if you well there's a couple of things, which is, I think, either get, I mean, actually, you can do this through Airbnb, and this is a really good idea. You can pay Airbnb to do photos for you,
Mm-hmm.
and there's two benefits for this. One, the picture will really pop out on the page, and I don't think, it could be like $150 or something for your
Hmm.
whole property. The one, it will pop out on the page as a professional photo, but the other thing is there will be an Airbnb watermark on it, and that will actually push your ranking in the platform higher.
Interesting. So
I
if you
mean,
use their like certified Airbnb photo service, you're
mm,
far more likely to get selected.
yes, yeah, that's true. I mean, I have my own professional photos that I had from selling the property, which I
Ah.
currently have, but I want to actually get a professional photographer just for the watermark,
Hmm.
to give it a go. I mean, I've tried. There are some other tips, but I think probably what you yeah, that's the professional photos are going to really help.
Okay. So for you
I
potential Airbnb managers and landlords out there, professional photos make a big difference, apparently. All right. So something else I was wondering, Ed, what are some potential red flags? Like, have you ever seen someone request your property and you just give them a big nope denial because of something you saw in their profile or the way they communicated?
um let me think. Yeah, I mean, I tended to get like, you know, a profile that looked really that bad.
So you've been pretty fortunate with the
Oh,
tenants then.
yeah. I mean, the only thing is, the only one thing is that, I mean, you can kind of get like curious. I had a lady that was trying to book the place to have her baby in
What?
once.
Yikes. What did you
I
say to
know.
that?
I mean, I had like, I mean, it was at the time we were building the business up again. Um, I did have an Airbnb manager previously, and it all went wrong. So we had to come back to the house and build the business up from scratch. And I have my family. I have my son in the house, so it would have been disruptive for him, and it would have been disruptive for the guests. But
Yeah,
felt, I felt really bad, and I tried to find her. I tried to find her some accommodation. Because that must be a pretty tricky situation to be in.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you guys allow pets?
Um, Allow pets.
Yeah, do you allow
I'm
pets in
not.
your Airbnb?
Um, I'm not necessarily closed to it, but yeah, I'm not close to it, but I haven't actually had many requests. I don't put that it's a pet friendly place. Sometimes people
Hmm,
do
interesting.
request that, but
So
maybe
if you were to allow pets, would you charge like an additional fee or a security deposit or something?
probably the security deposit. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to do it. I think if I was going to rent the whole property out, I would allow pets, but with a security deposit, so that the
Right.
cleaner could check out and make sure there's no like damage to the wood floors or thing.
So I was
Um,
wanting to ask you about any Airbnb horror stories, but it sounds like you've had a fairly pleasant, easy experience for the most part.
I mean, I've the only unpleasant like experience was it wasn't particularly some of this stuff isn't particularly unpleasant. Nothing actually physically bad happening, but I've had like one guy that stayed at the property and tried to extort money out of me after he'd left the property to get refunds and actually and get like get get compensation for such a horrific visit. And I had yeah I had another lady that was, it was more like just a couple of people sent some really unpleasant messages, but it was like I think I probably had like 300 guests, and it's two people in that 300.
That's awesome.
Um,
Okay, wow. 300,
and
you've had 300 guests.
I think so. Yeah, I think I've had about 300 guests, and it was,
Very nice.
two bad people, and the lady I just kind of dealt with the refund situ as soon as possible. She didn't even stay in the property, and the guy that extorted money, I just kind of, it wasn't a lot of money. I mean, I just, I just paid it because I just thought I don't want the bad review. So it's you know, mostly it's good, but I, it, if you not necessarily such horror stories, but if the people that have problems with reviews tend to be people who are who are with you just because it's cheap,
Right.
not because it's suitable. So I guess that would be my tip. Um, Try not to discount too much, even if you are just trying to fill a room, because you know sometimes cheap people have a cheap attitude.
Yeah, they won't respect your property well. Less likely
No,
to
no, no,
anyway. Less likely
that's
to.
that's true. I mean, but mostly I've got I've got pretty good reviews. I've got like 4.7 out of 5, and and I have been a super host before. Actually, when I became a super host, I tend to have a little bit more problem with guests.
Oh,
And
before we go on, what is a superhost?
so a super host is once you get a certain number of rankings and and booking, and you keep your ratings high enough. If you keep your ratings up to 4.8%,
Hmm.
4.8 out of 5, you become a super host for a period of a few months, and that will mean that you know your listings will be pushed out far and further, and you'll get more stuff come in. But actually, I think there are other ways of doing it. And when I lost my superhost, I wasn't really that disappointed, because I kind of got less of these really awkward guests.
So you felt you had some more awkward guests when you became a superhost, huh?
Yeah, yeah, and you'd get these really like snotty messages, and I'd be thinking, oh my God, what
Jeez.
kind of a house? What kind of house is this? And then I'd go there, and you go there thinking it was like like a crack den or something, and you're thinking, oh, what the hell, what the hell?
You get some maniacs on there, I imagine.
Good grief.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've tried to do is I've always just tried to, had the house. I tried to keep it to a certain standard, and tried to add and improve it. It's supposed to be a nice kind of friendly, easy place to be. It's not supposed, I'm not trying to push it into a really high price bracket or anything
Hmm.
yet, anyway.
So it
But
it, it kind of helps to have like an intention, like you're saying here, to know, like, do you want this to be high end, or do you want this to be like a decent deal or a cheap one? Like, does it help to have a specific intention with your property?
I think so. I think you've got to trial these things out, because when I did the property up, it definitely, definitely was more towards the high end. But when you get more traffic, you get more carpet stains. You have to clean that. But
Hmm.
you can't maintain that perfection anymore. But you can keep it up to a level. You can keep painting the walls and stuff. But you can't get it like pristine
Right.
every time. And that's
Especially if you got carpet in there.
yeah, I know. I picked very light carpets to try and sell the house,
Uh
not to have it as
oh.
Airbnb. So it's a pain in the ass, but it's something I have to live with.
Time to consider
But
wood floors.
Or
well,
just
I have
hard
wood floors
carpet.
downstairs,
Yeah, there you go.
and
So,
yeah.
what would you consider to be some of the best apps, resources, or websites that someone who is getting into Airbnb could use? Like what's something you feel like you can't live without that's really helped your business so much?
Well, there are these party apps that you can use. I think just read a lot of blogs and stuff, and try stuff out.
Any
There's a little
specific
tip.
blogs? Any specific writers,
Uh,
authors, YouTubers that really you resonate with?
yeah. I mean, I did read. I read this one book that was really helpful. Hang on, let me just pull it up. All slick and professional here. So. um,
A lot of good information about knowing what kind of property you want to have.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that was really interesting.
Yeah, I think that would make a big difference. Any apps or anything or any resources that you really favor, Ed? You there, buddy?
Okay, so
Okay.
I too many books, so
Okay.
so this is making it harder, and it's hard to find it.
All right. Well, like what's one of
I
the biggest tips you would have for someone getting into Airbnb? Like what's one of the biggest must do?
must do things. So I think you have to just have a bit of a plan and start by just do a bit of research through the Airbnb app to see what you think you could possibly make or what they're suggesting what you could make. Do a bit of research in your local area and just realize that you're going to have to start underpricing and over delivering just to get things going and then gradually
No, we're losing you, buddy.
start.
Oh,
Good pricing is the last thing I heard.
so you're saying that we need to
There are
can you hear me? Yeah, kinda.
Okay.
All right, there we are. We're good.
Ed, you there, buddy?
Yep. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, okay.
So good pricing over delivery.
So researching the local market is what you're getting at?
Yeah, so research the local market, pick your price, and realize that you're going to have to discount it a bit at first, and you can discount and give a load of value. Be really nice, even when you don't want to be nice, because your personality can save you from a bad review.
Correct.
Just,
Okay.
Just be really nice, really hospitable, and you'll kind of get into the zone with it. And once you have more experience, you can kind of you can figure things out more.
How did you feel with your first guest?
My first guest, it was weird, but he was, I felt really weird about it, but he was really nice and really interesting. So it went from being weird, me making it weird, not him. I felt weird. Then I talked to him, and he was a wonderful person. Learned loads of stuff from him, and it helped me be more sociable. So you just have to realize that the platform is full of people that mostly want to be social.
Okay, so you'd recommend, chatting, getting to know the guests a little bit. That hasn't been terrible for you, huh?
Yeah, that's it. And
No regrets.
you can do things like, maybe I advertised this, but maybe in hindsight I wouldn't. Which is, if you buy some like bread and some cereal and some milk and some eggs or something, and then you can just offer that for free. It's not a very expensive thing to do, but people think that it's, think, oh, that's really nice. I haven't got that in my last Airbnb.
So a couple of nice little touches in there, just a nice little few extra amenities.
That's it. I mean, how much does cereal cost? It costs like nothing, doesn't it? It pretty much costs nothing.
You ever put a note on don't eat this cereal, it's my favorite?
Yeah, you could do. Yeah, I think
Losing you again, buddy.
just throw yourself in, enjoy, and then. Am I still here?
Yeah.
We're good now.
Okay. I'll.
I couldn't help but mess with some Airbnb guests if I had the opportunity. Maybe leave a note on some cereal saying this cereal is probably not poisoned, something along those lines.
Yeah, that's it. Probably not poison.
Probably.
Right,
I mean, this is probably not the poison
Probably.
cereal. Wait, which cereal was poisoned again?
That's really nice, though. Those amenities.
All right, Ed, and what would you say is probably one of the more useful tactics to get the good reviews, to have people to actually come back and positively review their stay with you? Do you directly ask them for it, or what? How do you handle it?
I mean, I'm probably not doing this well, but I know the right way of doing it, which is
Yeah, tell us what you're doing, and tell us the right way.
Okay, well, because it's kind of my family home. I
Ooh.
what I what like bad reviews.
Sorry, man.
I I
You're cutting out again there. You got to say it again.
hang on. Maybe I'll stand out in the rain. Is that better? There we go.
Oh,
I hope so.
Is that better?
That's for the
Does that
moment.
hit? Okay. So yeah. So what was I saying? To deal with the reviews. Yeah. I mean, I just try and be really nice. Just check everything's okay with people, and but what I do is I don't tend to leave people reviews. So if they leave me a bad one, I don't find out until 2 weeks later. So it doesn't piss me off as much. Um, but that's kind of because it's my family home and it's a bit more personal to me. But the right thing to do would be to contact them, after the first night of the stay, and check that everything's okay, and if that, and then when you and then when their trip is over, you message them and basically tell them what you're going to review them. I say it was wonderful to have you here. Here is my positive review. I'm posting this now, so that
Okay.
it puts them into a more positive frame in reviewing you. I
Yeah.
think maybe another good tactic, which is an idea of mine, but I haven't implemented it because I'm juggling a million things. But that's not an excuse. Well, it is an excuse, but that you should have no excuses. So I'm going to slap myself for saying that. But what I thought is a good idea is if you create some form like review forms to put in
Hmm.
the room,
Ah, okay.
little index card.
and basically encourage people to write the good things and the bad things. And how I feel this would is if you have one of these difficult guests that I have had, they will get some of their anger out on the paper
Hmm.
and not on your review.
Mm.
So try to
So they
sap
just
some
sort
of the
of
poison, the
they,
vitriol, before they spew it onto your review page.
that's it. Oh, and this is another good idea that I had, which was actually you could have a little competition, let's say, and say, one of our lucky random reviewers will get, let's say,
Ah,
a £50 Amazon voucher.
right. A
Let's
gift
say.
card of some kind.
Yeah, that's it, one of our lucky ones. Now, if you're going to write a review and you want that gift card, do you think you're going to leave a 2-star review?
I know, right? That certainly incentivizes somebody to say nice things about you on the internet. There.
That's a lot of
because
redirecting of
because
anger too. That's awful.
I don't think people would review you as badly if they wanted that gift card.
I know, right?
Who
Gift
doesn't want
cards
a gift
are
Even if it's
card?
nice.
impartial.
Gift cards are
But if I
nice.
was but if I was running a quote unquote impartial review, yeah, definitely only 5-star people would win it.
I know, right? I know, right? I can't. I couldn't disagree with you on that score. On that note, guys, we're nearing the hour here. We're gonna wrap up. It's a good conversation here. My lovely lady and I, Noemi. By the way, I'm Joe. That's Noemi. I forgot to introduce us earlier. I was so excited to learn about Airbnb from Ed here. We're finishing up our chat with Ed Winslet. He's sharing, enlightening us a little bit in the Airbnb game. I think some of the big takeaways from that would be the photos, professional photos, make a big difference to Airbnb. Using the Airbnb photo prime service or whatever they call it on there is a huge factor. You can become a super host if you have a high enough review rating. And the renting out multiple rooms, creating a community atmosphere among the tenants sounds very useful, very good way to encourage people to have a positive experience. So I think there's a lot of good takeaways here from today's conversation with Ed. Ed, I really appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us. That was enlightening stuff. We'll have to have you on
No,
again sometime.
no, I appreciate being here. You guys are wonderful, and I think the thing is the whole thing with Airbnb is it's a new rule. You don't have to follow by the social norms of things. Sometimes you can do this to create new opportunities in your life, and that's what we are trying to do.
Well said,
And this is
sir.
what
Yeah, I agree. Very, it's it's a flexible time. There's a lot of flexible opportunities in the world here. On that note, guys, we're going to wrap up. If you haven't followed, make sure to follow. Check the info panels down below if you're watching live on Twitch. Collect yourself a free stock. Join the Discord community to engage in the conversation with us. On YouTube, same thing in the descriptions. Free stock, Discord, all that other good stuff in the descriptions. Likes, comments, subscriptions, always fire me up to make better and better content. And we will catch you guys on the next one. We're done for now. We're going to enjoy the rest of this Saturday. All right, guys. Appreciate you hanging out. Ed, appreciate you coming by.
Thank you, Ed.
Guys, love you guys.
All right, and we'll catch you guys next time.